All right, a little what's more likely, speaking of the Lions and the Giants, which one is more likely to make the playoffs, Detroit or New York?
I would say Detroit simply because of the division that they play in, right? I mean, the Detroit Lions are the favorites to win that division. If you look at the betting markets, Jared Goff, I think, has kind of done a good job of pumping the brakes on that a little bit, where it's like, yeah, we may be the favorites for something, but what does that even mean? I mean, we did not make the playoffs last year. We went into the offseason with good vibes, but what did we really do? But when you look at the Giants, I mean, they've got to contend with Philadelphia and also Dallas. So whenever you're talking about two teams that you really do think are good and you think are going to make it out of that division at the top, that puts the odds less in your favor for you, as a potential third place team to make the playoffs. So even though it's the NFC, I would say that the Lions are more likely.
The Lions remind me of the Cardinals back in the days when you were in middle school, where every year there was a segment of the media. It was like, this is the year the Cardinals are going to make the playoffs. Oh, they didn't. Okay, this is the year the Cardinals are going to make the playoffs. Oh, they didn't. And then finally, after like 5 or 6 years of it, they did. The Lions have done nothing. The Lions have proven nothing. If I was a Lions fan, I'd be upset that there's all this attention and all this expectation on a team that hasn't done anything. What have we done to deserve all this? Yeah, it's great to have primetime games, but you got primetime expectations now. You're expected to be better than maybe you're ready to be. So we'll see. That defense is abysmal. The offense, year 2 with Ben Johnson, will it be better? Will it not be? Who knows? We'll find out. Defenses will be ready to do everything they can to shut down Jared Goff and company. But I still agree with you. The Lions are more likely to make the playoffs. I mean, the Giants, we might see some regression this year, although they do have better weapons for Daniel Jones. But yeah, it's going to be tougher for the Giants this year. And the Lions, I think, in a more wide-open division, better chance to make it to the postseason. All right, the Raiders. Now, we talked earlier about the Texans being the one consensus team in the AFC that has no chance to make it to the playoffs. I don't know that there's another team that we would say this year with certainty they have no chance, but if there was one, it would be the Raiders. They're the next team on the list of teams least likely to make the playoffs in the AFC. Maxx Crosby of the Raiders is not happy with the fact that the team does not make the playoffs. Here he is with his views on the struggles of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Every single day I come in here, I think about winning. I don't do this year round to come in and not make the playoffs. I'm sick of that shit, and I want to keep winning. And I want to get back to the playoffs. I want to be in Cincinnati on the road, in a hostile environment. That's why I play the game. That's why I work the way I work.
Yeah, they were just in the playoffs a couple of years ago and gave the Bengals everything they could handle in that wild card game. Remember the phantom call with the T. Higgins touchdown and how that kind of marred the game? And it wasn't at the very end. It was in the first half. But it just added to this sense that the Raiders may have gotten screwed there. So they're not that far removed from being a playoff team. But the problem is, look around. I think Maxx Crosby understands where that team currently fits within the rest of the conference, the rest of the division. And, it feels like they've taken a step back this year. I think that's where his frustration comes from, Myles.
Oh, yeah, and I think that makes sense, but it's not like they were a perennial playoff team. They've only been to the playoffs that one time in Maxx Crosby's career. He was a fourth round pick in the 2019 draft, and basically was the guy that they drafted Cleveland Ferrell to be at 4 overall. But that's a different story when it comes to the John Gruden and Mike Mayock drafting record. But I think that what's good about Maxx Crosby is that he understands that he's got to set the tone for what that defense is and what the defense can be. They need some help around him. Like, they've got to get guys going so that he's not the only one getting pressures, because I know, and I don't mean to call out like people, but like the analytics say that he is one of the best edge rushers in the league because he gets consistent pressure, and pressure is great. And I'm not trying to say it's not, but when you get a sack, you then in the play. A pressure, somebody can still complete a pass. So that's one of the things where it's like with Maxx Crosby, you want him to get more sacks. They got to be better around him so that he can do that. That defense will be better. And perhaps then if all those things come together, maybe Jimmy Garoppolo will stay healthy and they'll be able to win games.
I failed to point out that we had a what's more likely embedded in that. What's more likely, Raiders make the playoffs or Maxx Crosby is the defensive player of the year. I feel like we're both leaning on the side of Crosby more likely to be the defensive player of the year just because the Raiders have a very stiff uphill climb to make it to the postseason. All right, Joey Bosa of the Chargers. Not happy that he has to eat a lot of food. Hey, Joey, I'll eat some of it for you. Eating isn't really enjoyable these days. It's more so just part of the job. I tried to eat really good and put some weight on this offseason, get back to my weight where I was a few years ago. He has eaten 4,500 to 5,000 calories a day in an effort to gain weight.
That boy is a P.I.G. pig.
I could do 4,500 calories by noon if I would decide to remove the restrictor plate. I can eat when I want to eat. And we're having family visit this weekend, and I'm already getting the stretchy pants out. We are going to eat this weekend. So I could get to the Joey Bosa weight pretty quickly, Miles. I don't know about you, but I know I could do it.
Well, let's see. What's more likely, it says here, is that Joey Bosa leads the NFL in sacks or plays fewer than 10 games. And frankly, he's on kind of a pattern where it's 1 year he's injured, the other year he plays 16 games. 1 year he's injured, the other year he plays 16 games. This year in the pattern would be the 16 games. So I'll say that one. I think it's more likely he plays 16 games.
And by the way, we introduced Miles yesterday to the great cafeteria scene from Animal House that culminated in John Belushi being accused of being a PIG pig before he imitated a zit. I don't think Miles had seen that before. He hadn't seen the movie. I don't think he appreciated the scene as much as the rest of us might, but that's okay. That's okay. It's all very subjective. We're going to take a break and wrap up this Friday edition of PFT Live right after this. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.